Hello and welcome to Talkernate History, the podcast where we,
Matt
and Max, talk about works of alternate history scenarios, and history in general. This episode, we're talking about an actually good movie, The Wind and the Lion, which is a 1975 film.
made by John Milius.
The great John Milius. You may know him from Red Dawn fame, Conan the Barbarian fame.
Conan the Destroyer.
Conan the Destroyer fame. What else did he do? He had something to do with Apocalypse Now.
He was big in the 70s and 80s.
We've mentioned this before, but John Goodwin's character in The Big Lebowski is based off of him.
Yeah.
And he's in this movie.
He
briefly.
is, very briefly. He directed it, and I think was he one of the screenwriters for it, too, or the script was his idea.
It certainly feels like it was written by him. I'll just say that.
Yeah. Yes. John Milius. The script is very Maoist, is what I found.
Yeah, you
as
can
we
really
watched
see it, coming through. You can see like the peasants rising up and everything. I mean, it's quite obvious if you know what to look for. But this is a film about a historical event that I knew literally nothing about until you mentioned this film.
Yes, this movie occurs in 1904 in Morocco. So we're kind of outside the usual bounds. We're pushing outside.
Yeah.
No World War II to be found here.
No World War I to be found
No
here
World
either.
War I. I know. It's crazy. Yeah. So basically, the quick cliff notes of this is it involves a woman, Eden Perdicaris, and her children, William and Jennifer, get kidnapped by Moulay Ahmed Muhammad al-Raizuli, the Magnificent, Sultan of the Berbers, Lord of the Rif, last of the Barbary pirates. And he is a Berber leader, and they're held for ransom. And he is played by
a fine Berber. They got a real one for this movie, Sean Connery.
Yeah, straight out of Edinburgh.
Yeah.
It's remarkable how much an Edinburgh accent sounds like an Arabic one.
She's putting on just the slightest hint of a foreign-y kind of lilt to it, but it's just him.
It's him. It's 95% Sean Connery.
It's James Bond. It's the guy from The Rock. It's just him.
Yes. So they are Americans. So Eden and her children are Americans. The children bizarrely speak in British accents.
Yeah.
Wild Geese 2 coming back here a little bit.
So the mother is American. I think it's implied because she said something later. She says, "I've shot grouse in Scotland and quail in North Carolina." Mm-hmm. So maybe she's from North Carolina, married a British guy, and then had kids with him, and now he's dead. They say in the first scene,
Your late husband,
right, which they never mentioned again. She's not in grief over it or anything. It's just totally brushed away.
She cashed the life insurance check. She's good to go.
And it needs to be said, I think, pretty early on, that this Eden Perdicaris woman is based on a real person. There was a real incident where a person was kidnapped.
An American
was kidnapped, except that person was an elderly Greek man.
Yes. Ion Hanford Perdicaris.
Who
was kidnapped by al-Raizuni.
Yeah. So they changed things ever so slightly.
Yes, and he was, instead of being Candice Bergen plays Eden Perdicaris, and she's probably like 30, and Ion Perdicaris was like a 64-year-old Greek-American man. And so the Perdicaris incident in real life, here's your history in general part. He was born in Greece, but he was an American citizen. He had actually fled from the United States, I think because his mother's side was from South Carolina, and so he didn't want to be conscripted into the Confederate Army, or he didn't want to be involved in the Civil War because he was old enough to have fought in the Civil War. So he basically resided in Europe most of his life. He had been living in Tangier for like 25 years before this, or something, 25 years, long time. He was like kind of a leader in the international community in Tangier. And in the backdrop of this is that you have Morocco was hotly contested by various of the great powers during the late 1800s, early 1900s.
They say in the movie that it's the only Islamic state that's independent west of, where did
Constantinople.
Constantinople, there you go, yeah. Which they still call it Constantinople at this time.
Yeah, Istanbul to Constantinople. Yeah, no, yes. But yeah, they say, so basically Morocco was this independent Islamic State, but it's under a lot of influence from Western powers, the British, the French, the Germans, the Spanish. I mean, Spanish Morocco was like a huge chunk of northern Morocco at one point.
True.
So you have all these great powers kind of competing with one another. So Perdicaris was ultimately kidnapped by Al-Raizuni. He was held hostage for this very large ransom, and it caused this Perdicaris Incident where there was a lot of there was a lot of saber rattling by the United States government to get him back. I think it was at the South Atlantic or North Atlantic Squadron was dispatched with Marines to Tangier, and ultimately the Sultan paid the ransom. Perdicaris was released. I think it's his stepson was also, who was British, I think was kidnapped with him.
Okay.
But Perdicaris, and we'll get to what happens later in the movie, but
which is quite different.
Yes. So long story, the ransom is exchanged. Perdicaris is released. Raizuni doesn't die until like 1925. He like goes on to be a big figure in Moroccan history. And Perdicaris actually spoke very highly of him, that he's this like, he's not a bandit. He's like a well-spoken man. It's kind of like a Stockholm syndrome kind of thing a little bit. But so he's a 64-year-old man. He was born in 1840. So they needed to sex it up a little bit. They needed to give I guess they figured, I think that's one of the things when the idea of the story came out, they're like, well, maybe we need to make this a little
hotter.
A little hot. Yeah, exactly.
Like
this isn't My Dinner at Andre. Like we need a little if we're going to get Sean Connery, we can't have him playing opposite some old man.
Well, John Huston is in this movie. Maybe John Huston could have been Perdicaris.
John Huston. So we're continuing the Huston tradition. Walter Huston, long dead by this point.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yes.
Was it 54, 55, something like that?
I feel like he died in like 1950 or 51.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's right. So Walter Huston was in Treasure of the Sierra Madre, and he died pretty shortly after that.
Yeah. But John Huston, his son, who plays Secretary of State John Hay, he lived until like the 80s.
Yeah.
And he had a very distinguished career as both an actor and a director.
Yeah. Like all of his early stuff is for directing. He did The Maltese Falcon, which his dad is in. Walter Huston is very briefly in that movie.
The African Queen.
The African Queen, that was him.
Asphalt Jungle.
That's a fine film. I love The Asphalt Jungle.
Prizzi's Honor, that's later. He directed a lot of good films. He was in Chinatown. He was the villain in the movie Chinatown.
A great villain. Such a horrible guy in that movie.
Yeah. He directed Moby Dick, the one with Gregory Peck.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
So he directed a lot of films. But he plays the Secretary of State, and he's very good in this. But so we've talked about the Perdicaris Incident. Well, let's talk about the Perdicaris Incident in this movie, because this movie is a fictionalization of it. And also, the actual incident happened May to June of 1904. This happens in like October 1904.
And it makes you wonder, why change that? Why do that? Maybe because like they talk about the election to make it really close to the election. Maybe that's why.
I think so. The 1904 election, because Teddy Roosevelt was in such danger of being unseated from office by, everyone knows him, Alton Parker. You know
Alton
him.
Parker, yeah, of course.
Yeah, I have a picture of him up in my office.
He's one of the greats, yeah.
Yeah, Alton Parker, the judge who they basically had to enlist someone to run against Teddy Roosevelt because no one wanted to run against him because he was a hugely popular president.
Yeah, it's so funny how this movie makes it seem like Teddy Roosevelt needs to do this. This needs to be successful or he's not going to be reelected. Like, come on, give me a break.
Yeah, 1904 is one of those elections that I know basically nothing about. Like, no one pays attention because he just steamrolled. Alton Parker was a Court of Appeals judge in New York who they had to enlist. He had to resign from his judicial seat to then run against Teddy Roosevelt and get stomped, other than the Solid South.
Right.
I mean,
they're
the South,
always going to be Democrats until they're not.
You had to be a Democrat to be dog catcher in the South up until like the 60s. But so here we have this in the background is eventually that Morocco becomes this sort of French protectorate. It is basically a French colony by, I think it's about 1912. So it takes a bit. Right before the First World War.
Were any Moroccans involved in the First World War? The same way that Senegalese colonial troops were used?
I think that there were. There definitely were Moroccan troops in World War II. For sure. I believe there were Moroccans in World War I. Definitely Moroccans in World War II and Algerians. In fact, that's the French Expeditionary Force. A lot of the crucial fighting in Italy around Monte Cassino and then the invasion of France itself Anvil Dragoon.
Yeah, on the south side.
On the south side.
Where Jan Bokassa was.
Yeah. Those were a lot of Algerian and Moroccan units, which we talk extensively about in
the Mediterranean episode.
The episode on the Mediterranean theater, which
maybe it'll be out by the time this one comes out.
One day it will be released. It's an excellent episode, but it actually it's a watershed because it's the last episode before we changed into the movie direction. Yeah. It's a great episode, but it's very long. Yeah. It's like
you'll love it when it finally comes out.
It will come out one day.
One day, yeah.
But so the French and Germans almost kind of went to war over Morocco. I think it was 1908. There was a lot of jostling because there wasn't much left of Africa by that point to be kind of taken over. But
makes sense. And it's a prime piece of real estate. It's on the Mediterranean.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's superb because it has access. It controls the straits.
They say we're in the shadow of Gibraltar here, they say in the film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They do. Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
But let's talk about the movie because we've kind of given you the background of it because they did have to make it a little bit different.
Yeah, a little bit sexier, a little bit more violent.
Yes, there is some ridiculous violence in this movie. So, but yeah, Sean Connery is Arab or Berber, I guess. Arab, Berber.
Yeah, they are different people.
They have different languages, which we were looking up before.
Goodness, yeah, their written script is completely different. Couldn't be more different. But so Sean Connery looks like Jafar from Aladdin in this movie. That was my first thought.
He does.
Because he gets a big heroic reveal at the beginning of the movie. Basically, the lady, Perdicaris, is having dinner with this British guy.
Sir Joshua Kenyon Smith.
Is that a real person?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I think it was I read somewhere that he was the head of photography or something for the movie. He just he was like a cast member. He was like a member of the crew. He wasn't.
I love that. That's awesome. But she's having a pleasant little dinner with this British guy. And then suddenly guys on horses show up out of nowhere and they're running around.
You saw them kill some French people, some Zouaves very quickly as they rush into Tangier.
Yeah, they trample upon the tricolor right there. The French theaters are in riot. They're burning the screen down.
That's right, yes.
Pulling out guns and firing at the screen.
Throwing baguettes at it. And, Charles de Gaulle is this is my least... Well, actually, he was dead by this point. He never saw this movie.
Yeah. 75.
Emmanuel Macron.
That's right. In high school, while dating his teacher, saw this movie and stormed out of the movie theater in disgust.
This movie came out before he was in high school.
When he was in elementary school and dating his teacher, he stormed out of the movie in disgust.
Yeah.
Oh dear. The waiter who's bringing them wine dramatically keels over and dies. He did his duty until the end.
He had a knife in his back for some reason. Why? They stabbed him in the back, let him walk out with the wine, then for him to tumble over.
That's how Remains of the Day with Anthony Hopkins should have ended. He should have keeled over with a knife in his back.
I've never seen that movie.
Oh, it's a great film. It's a fine film. It's a depressing movie though.
Anthony Hopkins from Red 2.
Yes, of Red 2 fame, and also one of those Transformers movies. He's in that movie as well. I didn't watch it.
How many are we on now?
It's probably 5.
There's got to be. I feel like there's more than that.
Maybe
I don't know.
6.
How many Fast and Furiouses? How fast and how furious have we become? Well, yes. So you have Sean Connery, and he has this big. And, he was 44 or 45 when this movie was made, but his beard's got a lot of gray in it.
Yeah. Well, shoot, some people go gray early. I mean, I have some gray hair, maybe just a little.
No, you don't.
Yes, I absolutely do.
I do have some too, but my wife just pulls them out. No gray here.
Plucks them out, yeah.
I'm very, very young,
Right, yes. You're only 84 years old. I mean,
That's
you
right.
have so much left.
84, 99, Max. How else could I have fought for the Second World War?
Oh, to be 95 again. Oh, those were the salad
That's right.
days.
I wonder if the people who are 104 are like, to be 97 again.
Well, that's what what's his name? Oliver Wendell Holmes said. He famously was saying to be 80 again. That would have been great. I've degraded so much since then. And he was 90 at the time or something.
Oh, goodness. So we have...
the waiter is stabbed in the back. And
yes,
yeah.
Waiter is stabbed in the back. And then men on horseback burst in to take them hostage. But Sir Joshua isn't going to take that, and he pulls out this little pistol, and he proves that he's a superb shot. He's like 4 for 4, 5 for 5.
Yeah, I think he kills, for every single chamber in the gun, he kills somebody.
And he looks like he's having a good time. He's like kind of smiling and like, ha ha.
Unfortunately, he cannot count because he tries pulling the trigger again and nothing happens. And
goes,
he is killed.
He goes, damn. And some guy slashes him with a big sword.
If only there were like 4 or 5 Kenyan Smiths, then the movie would have been over right at the beginning.
That's right. Exactly. Yeah, I know. All the Razuli would have been stopped. So and then they get taken hostage, but not after the Berbers take some time to smash up the shit in their house.
Yeah, there's an extended period of breaking things and putting phonograph funnels on people's heads and stuff.
And then they have the incident with you pointed this out. I had never.
Oh yeah. One of the funniest parts of the whole movie, there's a chef who looks like a stereotypical Italian chef.
Like on a pizza box,
like
the hot and fresh, ready to serve.
That guy, yeah. He's got a phone, and he's about to dial, I guess, the authorities in Fez, and they cut his hand off, and you see his hand is still got a death grip on the receiver.
Well,
severed.
It looks like they slash him with a sword, but then later when you're looking, is like they're grabbing the kid right near him. You see the hand, the arm, the hand still gripping. Oh no!
So crazy, yeah.
So they take them hostage and they take them. You meet the Razuli.
Mm-hmm. One of the first things he does in the movie is slap a woman. So
Sean Connery's favorite.
Sean Connery exerting his creative control in the movie.
But ultimately they get taken hostage, and he's supposed to be kind of like the noble savage, he's like educated. He says he's a descendant of the Prophet Muhammad,
which is I think that's an Alid.
I don't. There's a lot of people who claim, like, I think it's the Jordanian monarchy claims to be descendants of Muhammad. I think there are a lot of people who claim to be descendants of Muhammad. But he's like, he says he's a scholar, but he's also a warrior. And he takes them into the desert, and he makes these outrageous demands of money. And he wants the head of the Bashaw of Tangier, I guess the Pasha of Tangier, who turns out later to be his brother, you find out. And the Sultan is his nephew.
Yeah.
He wants his head in a box of melons or something.
I think a golden jar.
A golden jar.
Well, they say both. They say both in the movie. You got to keep your demands straight. Stop moving the goalposts. Where do you want the head?
Yeah, where are we going to put the head? Okay, the melon box or the jar. Come on. So he takes them out into the desert to hold them captive, and they interact with him, and they see that he's a savage, he's a rough man, but also he's educated. He also apparently can speak English, or they can speak Arabic or Berber
or something. Well, she says, Mrs. Perdicaris says at some point, "I can understand your gibberish," which is kind of mixed signals there. Like, can she actually understand? Is she saying, I'm just inferring from you yelling at me what to do? I don't know what's going on.
Because likely the real Raizuni in real life didn't speak English. However, Perdicaris, as a longtime resident in Tangier, probably spoke Arabic, so that's how he's able to talk to him.
Yeah. And considering this guy is a descendant of the Prophet, I bet he speaks Arabic at least to understand the Quran.
Yes. So, long story short is that they've been held hostage. The Americans find out, and bully old TR, Teddy Roosevelt, played by Brian Keith, who looks a lot like Teddy Roosevelt. And
I think he did a fine job in this movie.
He does.
He looks the part.
So, John Hay comes and tells him about this. And by the way, John Hay, who was TR's Secretary of State, was actually one of Abraham Lincoln's personal secretaries. So, 40 years before. Him and John Nicolay, those are the two famous ones. And they both wrote extensively about Lincoln after he died. So
clearly he lived quite a while afterwards and was
over
still
40 years,
still active in politics.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, you said he was Secretary of State for
Teddy Roosevelt for a period.
Roosevelt.
I think he died while Roosevelt was still in office.
Gotcha. Okay.
But he definitely was Secretary of State during. They may have switched up the Perdicarises have been switched up and changed up, but TR is still the same, and so is Hay. So TR is like Perdicaris alive or Raizuli dead, and Perdicaris alive or Raizuni dead would have been, or Raizuli, I guess I think they said Raizuli, was also a slogan of the time. And this is the time America's coming onto the stage, gunboat diplomacy. We're going to exercise our muscles and kind of we're going to.
This is after the Spanish-American War, for instance,
yes.
but before the cutting of the Panama Canal.
Yes, and World War I. So this is like that classic expansionist early 1900s.
You could say the Banana War era is beginning
Yes.
with this movie. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, the bananas.
Yes, yes. They at the end of this movie, they should have said, "Come on, boys, to Honduras. Let's do it."
Let's do it. Yeah. So they make these demands, and they want to put pressure on the Sultan's government to pay the ransom.
Mm-hmm.
They don't offer. The Americans don't offer to pay the ransom.
Not a cent.
No, not a cent. The Sultan's got to do it.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing in real life about the Perdicaris incident is that it came out. Well, it became known to the American government. It wasn't publicized that Perdicaris may have actually given up his American citizenship. Okay. And they almost were kind of like, well, we got to keep going forward with it. And it turns out, I guess, that it wasn't clear if he'd legally ever renounced his citizenship. So I guess he remained an American citizen. But the U.S. government, there was a lot of, I guess there was some problems internally. People like, oh, shit, like, is this guy actually even an American? If only they had that naming and shaming list, Max. I remember you're the first person who ever told me about that.
Yeah, of the people who renounce their American citizenship. So wait a second. If he renounces American citizenship, what would he have been a citizen of?
That was, I think, the question. Is he a citizen of Greece or of the United States? But it was actually, turns out, I guess, that it was never clear whether he actually had given it up or not.
The Greek Marines show up at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Peter Saras is like, this is the greatest movie of all time. This is fantastic.
That's right. The Evzonas come marching with the big tassels on their. The Evzonas, you ever seen those?
No, I don't know what that is.
They're like guard like the Greek Tomb of the Unknown Soldier in the presidential palace, and they have these really interesting looking costumes. They have these big balls of like fuzz on their shoes, and they kick up very high, and they have this very distinctive way of walking. And yeah.
But those guys come in at the end.
Yeah, that would be funny to see the Evzonas come in. So you have, what you learn is that you see the Bashaw, the head of Tangier. He's kind of in the hands of the Europeans, and he doesn't really want to help out. And, there's a lot of kind of back and forth. And Teddy Roosevelt is in this a lot, but he does a lot of pontificating.
He does. Yeah, he's got a lot of speechifying that happens in this film. Like, I think the first bit of speechifying is when he starts talking about the Perdicaris alive or Raizuli. I'm so mixed up now. Raizuli dead.
Raizuli.
Yeah. And he's shooting guns and he's shooting arrows at targets. And there's a very humorous little bit where he's boxing with someone and he's mostly just punching this man in the face over and over and over again. But apparently he was hit so hard he got blinded in one of his eyes. They reveal later in the movie.
That actually did happen. Which is funny because he's beating the shit out of the guy.
So that really happened. Did it happen around this time or did it happen earlier in his life?
Now that I don't recall.
Okay. But these speeches are good. I like them. But
a lot about the American character. He talks about the American character, kind of wistfully looking out into the distance. Yeah. The American character. We're restless, audacious. Yeah. And there's a scene where he goes to Yellowstone.
Yeah. And there's a dead bear. And he pontificates about the dead bear and how America is like a dead bear.
Yeah. Except this dead bear looks like a rug.
Yeah, it looks like he shot a rug. The bear looks very cartoonish on its face.
And he talks about this should be the grizzly bear. It stands alone, but it's full of pride and bravery. This should be the symbol of America, not that ridiculous eagle, that dandified vulture.
And he gets his shotgun out and starts shooting American eagles left and right. I hate you. I hate you.
If only. But he does a lot of, he doesn't really, and he talks about, he's like, we'll send in the military, we'll send in the fleet. If they won't do what we want, we send them in. And so,
Big Stick. Have you heard of the Big Stick? They say several
times. A lot of men
times.
telling other men about the Big Stick.
Have you heard about the Big Stick?
The Big Stick.
Because I'm happy to show you if you're interested.
So you see this sort of like at one point the Americans, before they send in the troops, they send one of the members of the legation in Tangier goes to Fez with 2 lions to see the Sultan.
That's right. Yeah.
He's kind of like a man-child. He plays bicycle polo. He does has this weird laugh.
This is when John Milius makes his cameo in the film.
He does.
Yeah.
And he's showing a Maxim gun to the Sultan, and the Sultan's like, okay, I'll shoot it. And there's like these retainers who have to like run out of the way very quickly before he starts shooting.
Yes.
And then they get on this giant, basically, sled that's pulled by all these workers.
Yeah.
And he's talking to the
American diplomat.
The American diplomat, and he's like, what am I supposed to do? It's so hard to be the Sultan.
He says as he stuffs his face with dates and grapes and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly.
Not a subtle message here. It's pretty clear.
Not at all. And so the the Moroccans look like just fools, other than Raizuli and his people, and they're corrupt and all that. But you have the Americans; they know how to cut through the bullshit. They're gonna cut through the BS, and they're gonna get right to it. They're gonna, and it is funny as you go through this movie. So while there's the diplomatic stuff happening, you have Perdicaris and her children in the desert with Raizuli.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, mention what you were telling me about as we're watching these scenes.
There's a little bit of pseudo-romantic stuff. They never consummate anything. They never hug or kiss or anything like that. But it's just like a mutual attraction that they have. There's a chemistry between Perdicaris and Raizuli. And it's just so funny to think about during all these scenes that this is originally an elderly Greek man with a giant beard. So, like, just imagine, like, when they're in the same tent together and he uses his sword to cut down the door of the tent. Just imagine this guy. This is the guy. It's just so... Just don't forget that. Just keep that in mind. He's got the pillow, coquettishly held up.
The end when he hands off the gun to him in the end fight scene. Just imagine that, a 64-year-old man handing this gun to Sean Connery. And the thing is, he talks about how, like, he's supposed to be this humane man, and you see like he's got this humane side, but he likes to slap women. At one point, when the Americans turn down his first demand, he's like, go find a woman, cut off her finger, and then send it to the Americans and say it's Perdicaris. And he later says, but I would never kill a women and children. I guess he'll maim them, but not kill them.
Just remove their fingers. I mean, please. And there's 4 guys who have committed the great sin of eating his dates and drinking his water from his well.
I guess without permission.
I guess, yeah. And cuts off 2 of their heads. But he's such a humane guy. He could have cut off all of their heads. Just 2 of them. I mean, come on.
At one point, I guess a man's tongue gets cut out. And then they talk about in the past about how Raizuli had kidnapped a British diplomat and then returned him. And the diplomat said he was such a nice guy. But then the French and Spanish emissaries, he just cut up pieces of them and sent only back pieces of them. It's just like, look at this really great guy. And the kid loves it, William.
Yeah.
He loves all he's wearing the Arab like head dress, and he has someone gives him a
tiny curved knife,
curved dagger, and he thinks this is so cool and loves watching these people's heads get chopped off.
He has a dream about him later in the movie about how cool he is.
Yeah. And
it makes him devoted to him to decide he's gonna does he actually kill anybody in the movie?
He does. Remember, he shoots a guy. So they're being held hostage to Perdicaris, and at one point I guess she pays some member of the retinue to take her. But he basically turns them over to these brigands or pirates or these like thieves near the sea. They have some encampment, but then they're like kind of threatening them. And then Raizuli shows up, and he starts shooting them with some pretty accurate rifle fire from on horseback from very far away and above them. It's just a superb shot. And he does actually throw up the manual sights on the Mauser, which is pretty good. And then he kills some people with a sword. Candace Bergen stabs a guy with this big giant pole arm. The son shoots a guy with a Giselle.
That's right.
Musket.
Yeah. The daughter doesn't really do anything the whole movie.
No, the son is more the focus.
Yeah. But very adventure serial kind of stuff in the tone of the movie. You're not supposed to really think about the 2 guys who just got beheaded. Like,
yeah, exactly.
You're supposed to accept people are killing other people, but it's all in the spirit of adventure,
Oh, we forgot about earlier when we were talking about the political part about there's a part where Teddy Roosevelt's giving the speech from a caboose of a train, and there's just these 2 Native American guys just standing next to him for some reason.
Silent, looking at each other knowingly as he talks about protecting American interests and whatnot.
There's a scene, too, where Teddy Roosevelt's cutting his birthday cake. And
they sing for He's a Jolly Good Fellow, as everyone does at every birthday.
Exactly.
What's the birthday song? I don't know what this is. It's always for He's a Jolly Good Fellow.
I wonder if it's not copyrighted like the birthday. The birthday song is still under copyright.
Is it still?
Yeah, so that's why, like,
give me a
I remember
break.
reading that somewhere that's why if you go to a restaurant, they go like, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday, you know, like, or they have someone, you know, go to like a Mexican restaurant and they have put like a sombrero on you, which doesn't, which may not, when I was a kid, they could do that, I guess, but, you know, or things like that, and people dance around and they that's why they do that, so it's acceptable. I don't know.
I remember back in the day, people were accusing the rights holder of the Happy Birthday song of being trolling, basically patent trolling, saying you own something but you don't actually, and that you're like litigious about it or something. But I don't know. I don't know.
There are real patent trolls out there, but I don't know about them if they are or not. And frankly, if you hold a patent like that, I mean, they're not going to, I mean, what are they going to do? Found like you saying happy birthday at your house and you didn't pay me royalties for it? I mean, it's really for like movies and TV is probably is where you would get it from.
Yeah.
But you know, they're not endless. The copyright isn't endless. I mean, Disney lost the copyright on the early version of Mickey Mouse, right?
Yeah. And we can now reproduce the Yes We Have No Bananas song because now it's in the public domain now.
Thank goodness. I was waiting for it. So, but as Teddy's cutting the cake, I think he's like meaning to look like he's cutting through the Panama Canal, but he actually cuts through Nicaragua. So maybe we have another hint. This isn't the world we talk.
It's a different world. This is you know what? I'm just going to come out and say it now. There were times in this movie where I was reminded so much of the Black Chamber series. And maybe this is like the prequel story to that, because there's a lot of wildly different things from reality in this film. And I bet S.M. Sterling really likes this movie. So, you know, I'm just saying that.
It's very jingoistic.
Yes.
I mean, like, we'll get to this, probably the most jingoistic scene, which is the Admiral lands. French Ensign Chadwick was his name.
Really?
Yeah, quite a name. And he wears like an interesting tricorn hattie. Like, hat thing. Hattie.
It's very similar to the hats they wear in Gabriel Over the White House.
I wonder if that's what in the Navy they wore those.
It's shown up more than once, so it makes me think it might be accurate.
Yeah. So he shows up with Captain Jerome from the Marine Corps, and they're like, we're going to cut through the red tape here. Like, if the Bashaw won't do what we want, we'll just take him at bayonet point, and we're going to just take over his palace and make him do what we want.
Yes.
And Captain Jerome is based off of because the actual fleet was dispatched in real life to Tangier, and it had Marines on it, commanded by a guy named Captain John Twiggs Myers. Handsome Jack Myers, who was the leader of the Marines at Peking during the Boxer Rebellion.
No way.
And someone mentioned we should probably do 55 Days at Peking, or 55 Days in Peking, which is like a Charlton Heston movie, in which Myers is a character. And he was like a famous Marine of the time. What I find interesting is that his background was quite unique for a person of his time. He was a Marine Corps captain. Where he gets the Twiggs from, his maternal grandfather was a guy named David Twiggs, who is a Confederate general who was born in like the 1790s.
What?
And so David Twiggs, who was like, he was a general in the U.S. Army before the Civil War, like the second most senior or third most senior, left for the Confederacy. And I guess his daughter, probably from a second marriage, perhaps,
Gotta be.
married a guy named Abraham Myers, who is the Jewish quartermaster general of the Confederacy.
Wait a second. Was this guy in Gods and Generals? Was he the quartermaster guy from that movie?
No, that's Marcena Patrick.
Oh,
This is an army, not a rabble. That's the
Yeah.
Union. That's the Federals. Come on.
Oh, no. I'm sorry.
How could you? How could you? Jeff Daniels is just crying right now.
I don't know the
C. Thomas Howell is crying and saying, Max, do you have any work for me? Please.
Please, I beg
Soul
you.
Man 2. I was counting on Soul Man 2.
Do you want me to wish anyone a happy birthday or something? Please.
You should go on, what's that, Cameo? What is that thing where people pay celebrities to...
Yeah, I think it's Cameo. I think that's right. It's something like that. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not OnlyFans. It's
Yeah,
you sing happy birthday.
See all of Thomas Howell. Yeah, SEE Thomas Howell.
So that's John Twiggs Myers. So that's who that character's based off of.
That is absolutely crazy.
But that's such a unique background for the time. So I guess his father, I don't know if he rejoined the army after the war, but this guy, Handsome Jack Myers, they called him. Mm-hmm. I think he later served in the First World War too. But he is the inspiration for this character. He was kind of like he was like a famous Marine of the time. But so he leads a force of Marines in blue jackets.
Yeah.
And they march. They've got a potato digger machine gun with them.
They don't ever use it, I don't think.
No, they don't.
Unfortunately.
And they have Krag Jorgensen's,
yes,
which
they
is
do.
actually not accurate. They should have been using 1895 Lee straight pull 6mm rifles. And John Milius is a huge gun guy, and apparently has acknowledged, like, we knew that these weren't correct, but like we couldn't get enough of the Lee rifles. Because this movie was shot in Spain, by the way.
Yeah.
Not Morocco, which is interesting because most films that are filmed in the Middle East that are Hollywood films are actually filmed in Morocco because it's safer and it's very pro-Western country.
Now, Star Wars was filmed in Tunisia.
It was.
But most of them are Morocco.
Yes. Not most, not all, but most. Mm-hmm. Very few are like, let's go film this movie in Syria.
Yes.
So ultimately they march through the street in this very John Philip Sousa march,
Oh my God. Yeah.
What did you think of that scene? Because it's like one of the classic scenes of this movie where they're marching through the streets.
It's interesting, you see them marching, they're drilling, which I love drilling. I mean, gods and generals, excellent drilling.
Reloading in 9 times.
Yes. They're walking through the streets. People are getting out of the way.
Sometimes they just kick people or shove them out of the way or destroy their stuff.
The embassy guys, the French, the Germans, they're like muttering to themselves as they see them walk through the streets. Then they show up in front of the presidential palace or whatever you want to call it.
The Bashar's palace. There's no president here.
Please. Yeah, the Bashar's palace. And they line up there. They point their guns at them, at the guards, and just open fire at them.
And the guards don't do anything. They just stand there. They don't run. They don't shoot on their own.
And then they just charge. They go into the building and just start shooting everybody, including people who are non-combatant.
It's like kind of like in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, where John Cleese's character goes in to rescue the princess, and he's just slashing,
just killing
everyone, just stabbing everyone and slashing them, and
it's very similar to that. Yeah,
except they're just shooting them and stabbing. Like all these, like at one point they get to the Bashaw, and he just has like. It's clearly like a guy who gets him, a servant who gets him food or water, and they just shoot him. Nope.
And the Bashar is not super concerned.
No, he just like flings the guy. He flings the guy's hand off of him. And the Bashar is played by Wladek Szybal, who is a Polish actor who you may recognize as Kronstein, who was one of the bad guys in From Russia with Love. So I guess him and Sean Connery could
they got a connection there. Yeah.
Talk about old war stories. So they take the Bashar prisoner and they force him, luckily at no expense to the American taxpayer, to pay the ransom, which is like 70,000 pieces of Spanish gold or something. Mm-hmm. And not the head. They're not going to have to turn over the Bashar's head. And he at one point reveals to Perdicaris, like, well, I'm just going to release you at some point. Like, I'm not going to keep you here forever.
That's right. Yeah.
So the Bashar goes with the Sharif of Wazan, this guy who shows up occasionally, his friend or relative or something. And they take the Perdicaris to this town. Yeah. Where the ransom will be exchanged. They get to the town, and then out walks this German officer you've seen before, who has the most prominent cheekbones I've seen in a while. Von Rorkel is his name, although they don't ever say his name in the movie.
A very Peter Wellian looking man.
Yes, although apparently the actor was French in real life. Yes. He has a monocle at one point, so you can tell he's evil. He's got a pour le mérite, and he's got a monocle.
Yeah.
And he's next to a man at one point who has the most ridiculous walrus mustache I've ever seen.
And so our boy Razuli is taken hostage, and our Perdicaris, the heroine, is taken into a room with a bunch of U.S. Marines.
They're there. The Moroccans and Germans are the bad guys. They've captured Razuli.
Yeah.
Wazan takes the ransom, but he's like signaling to Sean Connery that he's not abandoning him, but he pretends to be abandoning him. The Marines take the Perdicaris into this. They said, we're going to wait until dawn to leave.
Yeah. it's unsafe to go out at night with these guys around. And I think the implication is those damn Europeans. You can't trust them.
How could you? I spit on the EU. Pan-Europeanism. Oh, it's disgusting.
Oh, no.
I want to use different money every country I go to in Europe. Oh,
yeah.
It's disgraceful.
That's
How
what I'm
dare they
talking
try and take over America? But luckily what was that book?
Yeah, that your brother read.
That they were like the UN. It's the UN, not the EU, and the brave Americans launched like a gas attack. It's something. One of those ridiculous,
There's so many books like that. What was the name of it?
It's like a Rumble video turned into a book. Power Slap. Just kidding. Not Power Slap.
Oh gosh, what is it? It's like I don't know. It's. Whatever it is, I don't know.
It was insane.
Yeah.
It was absolutely insane. So the Marines are there, and they've got Krags, and they've got a bunch of 1897 shotguns, Winchester 1897s, which are beautiful guns.
Oh, so that means Raisuli gets a Winchester at the end of this movie.
Yeah, because he talks about what sort of gun does.
He says rifle.
What sort of rifle? Because he talks about. He says those Europeans have guns that fire so many times promiscuously. Okay, Mr. Bond. You would know something about firing promiscuously, wouldn't you?
Okay.
But yeah, because earlier he's like, well, what sort of rifle does this Roosevelt, the Sultan Roosevelt,
the Sultan of America, Roosevelt,
yes, the Bashaw, use? And they talk about a Winchester. He's like, I've never heard of this. But yeah, he complains about the guns that fire many times promiscuously and rend the ground or something like that. There's sometimes Yoda. He gets into Yoda speak a little bit at times.
Well, that's kind of the noble savage thing that they're going for with this guy.
Yeah, no, he's not a savage. He just chops off people's heads because they eat his food.
A completely normal reaction. Beheads many people in this movie. Many
He
people.
loves to kill people, you know.
But as part of this, Perdicaris and her son both really want Raisuli to be free. So they take one of the Marines hostage
The
very
captain,
briefly.
Captain,
the captain.
Captain
yeah.
Jerome.
Jerome, yeah. And Jerome ends up turning the tables and saying, well, hell, I wanted to do this anyway. Let's go out there and just kill everybody.
It's just so weird. Well, they were at the point where she's holding a knife to him. I was joking with you who are watching it. Like, why wouldn't they just shoot them? Like, just shoot the, oh God, just, you've turned the tables on us.
Oh no, we were supposed to save her. Teddy Roosevelt is going to lose now.
Oh no, President Alton Parker will walk out. Parker. 4 more years, 8 more years, 20 more years. Alton Parker forever. But yeah, he's like, hell yeah, we'll join you. Sure, we'll start this international incident. Why not? Oh, and all the Germans, what do they have, Max?
They all have Pickelhaubes on, which is awesome. I don't know if that's accurate, but I like it. I like that in this movie.
Yes. All Germans must have Pickelhaubes.
Yep. It's a good look. It's a good look. And so they walk out there, and there's this tense scene. We mentioned that it's very similar to The Wild Bunch.
As we were watching it, it's very much like The Wild Bunch, the end scene of The Wild Bunch, where they're walking out.
Which would have come before this movie. So.
It made 5 or 6 years before, yeah. Made by a different director, Sam Peckinpah. But.
Yeah. And so they walk out there, and eventually at some point, they ask to see Raisuli. There's a little bit of a tussle, and then they just start shooting everyone. Though the Germans shoot first.
The Germans do shoot first, so the Americans are justified.
Yeah, they're the good guys here, okay?
They drew first blood, Max. Not me.
Not me. Unless, of course, you're going to the Moroccan Bashaw Palace, in which case you can shoot anybody. It doesn't matter.
Draw first blood without
all you want. It doesn't count.
Who cares about these guards? All these guards we're about to shoot. Who gives a shit about them? Who cares? Who gives a shit about the guy serving? People serving food and drink in this movie don't end up very well.
You're dead. You're done. You're an enemy combatant. But they find Raisuli hanging upside down, shirtless. And
they're shooting all these Germans. Tons of Germans being shot by Americans.
Germans, Moroccans, no French, just Germans and Moroccans at this thing. Mm-hmm. And Raisuli's like, cut me down. And I'm thinking, oh my God, you're liable to break your neck.
He's suspended. Oh yeah, they cut him. That would be a funny drops in his.
They do some artful cutting to make it less scary, but yeah.
And the Bashaw gets shot by Candace Eden Perdicaris shoots him with a shotgun.
Blows him away with a shotgun. So I guess you also sidestep the kinslaying, the killing your own brother thing.
Yeah. Well, he said his brother had previously had him held for years in a dungeon of, is it Mogador? It sounds like Mordor a lot.
I think it's Mogador, yeah. And it's basically he gives the origin story from Bane in The Dark Knight Rises. I did that. Yeah, that was me. They kept putting chains on me, but they kept getting bigger and bigger because I was bigger and bigger or something, which is also Conan-like, which is the another Milius movie.
I had to push a giant wheel
for 20 years.
For 20 years.
They became Arnold Schwarzenegger at the end of it.
Just, enough with the talking. Is that from Conan the Destroyer, where he's like, enough with the talking, and he just throws the sword?
I think it is. I think that's from the second one.
Kills Wilt Chamberlain.
It's so sad, but he betrayed him, though. To be fair,
that's true. Yeah.
Don't betray Arnold Schwarzenegger, and you'll be fine.
That's right. Yeah. Like he should have, like James Caan in Eraser. He at the end of it, they like put these senior members of the U.S. government. They lock them in a limo that they put across the train tracks, and then they get just killed in that. But like, and we'll talk about implications of endings in a minute about this movie. But the implication of the ending of that movie is people wouldn't just be like, "Oh, okay, it happened." It would be massive congressional. It's like the Undersecretary of Defense gets run over by a train. Like people would like look into this. They wouldn't just be like, "Oh, you've been erased."
Oh my God.
And they'd say, what about all those cool guns that fire the weird ass bullet, in Eraser?
The rail guns.
The rail guns.
Yeah. And the alligators, your luggage. What a film. Eraser is like...
It's a crocodile, Max, please.
Damn it. Oh, I've exposed myself. I'm so sorry. Damn it.
It's about the size of the snout.
Is it?
It's the broader American alligators have a broader snout. Crocodiles are more narrow, but I guess who gives a shit?
I like the gavials, really
gharials.
Gharials
that have the long snouts that get fish.
Okay, all right. Fish getters. Right.
Yeah, they live in India, but they are some of the longest crocodilians.
Interesting.
But saltwater crocodiles are the biggest, though Nile crocodile is probably close.
Huh. And there are crocodiles in America too, right?
Yes, in the very southern portion of Florida, the American crocodile.
Are they endangered?
They may be. Maybe they're threatened. American alligators were endangered at one point.
But I know for a fact they're all over the place now.
All over the United States. They're like one of the great success stories. And so saltwater crocodiles were also threatened. But now if you go to Guinea and northern Australia, they're all over the place. I mean, they used to range as far almost into Vietnam, definitely, but possibly into China, India. There's still some in India. In Southeast Asia, not a ton, but they're flourishing in Australia, in New Guinea.
Interesting. Okay.
Another reason why Australia is a continent that wants to kill you.
Good old Australia.
That's right. Yeah, I saw Crocodile Dundee. No, nah, man, I ain't going there.
I saw Crocodile Dundee.
I saw Kangaroo Jack. Nah, man, I can't do it.
I saw Crocodile Dundee 3
oh God!
In L.A. Remember that?
Terrible movie.
What an awful film.
And then there's also, I confused that one with the Crocodile Hunter movie.
Yes, yeah, that's another fine film right there.
Yes, Steve Irwin.
When are they going to make a Bluey movie? Have you seen this thing, Bluey?
What is that?
That's a cartoon made in Australia.
I've heard that from some people talk about this show for children.
Yeah.
But I'm not a child, Max. I'm a grown ass man. I don't watch Bluey.
I'm an adult. I don't watch Bluey. I watch
Bear in the Big Blue House.
The Big Blue House.
Arthur.
Yeah,
Aardvark.
I think that is still going or was still going.
I think it ended.
Did it?
Know.
Okay. All right. Good old Arthur.
But they're making a Bluey movie?
They should. They should do that. If they know it's good for them to make a lot of money,
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. Leverage it.
Yes, we can make a children's version of The Wind and the Lion. They'll just have foam swords instead.
The last movie that Sean Connery ever did was Sir Billy, which is this awful CGI nightmare. Terrible, terrible movie.
What a way to go out.
He should have, more elegantly ended his career at the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. That was really Alan Quatermain
Alan Quatermain, yes, from King Solomon's Mines. God, what a terrible movie. I saw that movie in theaters.
Yeah, I saw it on television, and that was enough for me. That was pretty bad.
I saw Terminator Genisys in theaters.
Yeah, you did.
Damn. What the fuck happened, man?
Where did it all go wrong?
I know, but I did not see Terminator Dark Fate in theaters. I could smell a stinker. I guess I couldn't smell a stinker with Genesis. J.K. Simmons was in it, and he's pretty awesome.
He was, yeah.
So, he's amazing in, I was thinking the other day about him in The Lady Killers.
Oh,
and
my God.
I know a lot of people don't like that movie, but I think it's really funny.
I love that movie. I think it's great.
And he is so good in it.
Yeah.
Garth Pancake, the IBS. Son, you have to live up to your responsibilities and kill that old lady. Or he's, you know who the Freedom Riders were? They were concerned white liberals from the North who came down here so people like you could vote. Or
and Mountain Girl, his companion.
Yeah. I love
they drop her off the bridge and she's got hair all over her legs. It's great.
I love he's like, they're robbing the place and he's got to take a shit. He's like, IBS, quickly. Quickly. And then he like walks out of the bathroom and he's like, the biggest problem with IBS is education, is that, it afflicts millions of people. There's no cure, only prevention. And he's like, that's where I met Mountain Girl at an irritable bowel singles event in the Catskills, with the decline of the Borscht Belt, he's just going on. And he's like, you should hear some of the stories. They're very beautiful. But then he's amazing too, because you see him in that, but then you see like Oz. Mm-hmm. He plays the bad guy in Oz, and he is terrifying. Yeah, he is absolutely terrifying. Is Schillinger in the TV show Oz?
I know you've watched all of Oz, I think, right?
I have, yeah.
Yeah. Christopher Maloney's in that. He's also terrible.
Yeah, they're in prison. Everyone, even the people who were good at the beginning become just desensitized and all. Yeah, no, it is a good show. It's pretty intense though. Not as good as The Wire or The Sopranos, but it's like the forerunner of them.
J.K. Simmons is also in Baldur's Gate 3.
Is he?
Yeah, a fine video game. I like it very much.
He's a damn good J. Jonah Jameson.
Yeah. I love J.K. Simmons. Everything he does, I think, is just great. I need to see the original Lady Killers, the one with Alec Guinness.
Alec Guinness.
Yeah.
And Peter Sellers.
Peter Sellers, eh? Interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think the only Peter Sellers film I've seen is Dr. Strangelove.
That's a good movie.
And actually, I think I watched a little bit of one of the Pink Panther movies when I was a kid, and I was like, I love this cartoon part at the beginning. Mm-hmm. This is amazing.
Da-dun, 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 da-dun. It's classic.
And then it gets to the ostensibly funny part of the movie, and I'm like, I don't get it. Why can't it be all a cartoon? I don't understand.
Exactly. Yeah, he was good. He's great in Doctor Strangelove. I remember watching the movie Being There, mm-hmm. which is, he wanted to win an Oscar for it, and he was very good in it. But like, it's about this guy that is actually kind of a simple person. He's like a simple gardener, not very smart.
Simple Jack.
He's kind of like Forrest Gump a little bit, but like everyone thinks he's smart and they want him to be president. And all I remember from the very end of the movie is he just walks out into a pond and he's just walking on water. And I was like, Wait, so is he Jesus? Or what's the...
Well, maybe it's like a RoboCop thing where it's just really shallow water.
That's right. That would explain why he had that giant like stick thing that came out of his hand and he stabbed a guy in the neck.
Yes, sayonara Peter Sellers, yes. And then he stabbed him, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So ultimately, yes, they've been taken. Wow, what a tangent that was.
Yes.
Love it though. Wouldn't have it any other way. So there's a huge shootout. Yeah. The Germans are defeated. The Sharif of Wazan attacks with his people, and it's in broad daylight, and it shows them getting positioned at night. Which, if they wanted to attack, they should have just attacked at night. It would have been way harder for the Germans and the Moroccans to defeat a night attack.
Yep.
Than a day attack. So they attack during the day, and the Germans have artillery, and a lot of the Berbers get killed, but they overcome them. Von Rorkel is defeated by Raizuli, but he spares him. They fight. They have a sword fight. Because it's funny, because the Von Rorkel points a broom handle Mauser at him, but he decides honor over reason, and he's going to have a sword fight. Because in real life, any military officer worth their salt would have just shot him.
Yeah.
He's like far away, and he's got a gun, and the other guy just has a sword.
You
just would have. That would have been the better ending. Would just. But the Germans are defeated. But what are the implications of this, Max? What would this be like in actuality? Because nothing appears to happen out of this.
There's no downside to this killing of many, many, many German people as part of this incident. it's already been established that killing Moroccan people doesn't matter. Who cares? But German people, it's 1904. Where's Germany at in the world in 1904? Like,
the Kaiser. I mean, shouldn't there be some sort of war or international incident? And also remember, the Germans kill some Americans too. You see some of the Marines get shot.
That's true.
So there should be Americans who are like up in arms about the Germans.
We've got to take back the Bismarck Islands.
That's right. Yeah.
America needs Rwanda now.
Germany didn't own Rwanda at the time.
Oh, really?
It was the Belgians, I believe.
The Belgians. Well, when did
Germany owned Tanzania.
Tanzania.
Cameroon.
Yeah.
Togo.
Southwest Africa.
They were late to the game.
Some legation areas of China.
Parts of New Guinea.
Oh, yeah.
Tsingtao, that's where Tsingtao beer comes from. That's
yeah.
Ultimately, so the implication is in real life, there should be...
Something should be happening.
Something should be happening, and it's not just everyone forgets about this for the next 10 years until World War I happens.
I mean, I think that's what Milius is doing here is let's have a World War I in miniature before World War I. Let's have a fight with the eventual enemy now.
I guess because they could have. They just did the Moroccans. If it was just the Moroccans, like maybe you could. Which is so funny because the real Perdicaris incident just ended with the ransom being paid and the guy got released.
Yeah, everything was fine. There was no problems.
Just imagine the old man handing the shotgun. There's a scene where after they free Raisuli, just handing the shotgun to Sean Connery with this longing look in their face. That is a way funnier movie they could have made of the old man and the romance of
And the end of this movie. So Theodore Roosevelt wants to see his bear because earlier in the film, he shot a bear. He pontificated about the bear. Later on, during his birthday, I think, they show him sketches of what the bear will look like in the museum. And he's like, no, completely wrong. He needs to be like this. And he stands up on a desk and starts roaring and clawing the air with his hands. And they even take a picture of it, which I wish such a picture existed. That'd be hilarious.
I'm waiting for the Calvin Coolidge picture of that Warren Harding. Standing like that. Although we got Calvin Coolidge in an Indian headdress, which is still pretty good.
That is great. I'm glad that really did happen. That's beautiful. Yeah.
Not alternate history, and I'm damn glad for it.
Also, during that scene, there's a part where John Huston is next to an Asian man. I assume he's Japanese. I think he's probably there for Russo-Japanese War treaty negotiations or something. But John Huston leans over and he says, "You likey knifey, forky," or something like that. Just wildly offensive.
And then the Japanese guy stands up and starts talking in perfect English.
Absolutely perfect English with no accent whatsoever. Yes, that was kind of funny. But anyway, the big reveal happens at the end of the movie where they tear the sheet off and the bear is appropriately rampant, standing up and
looking less like a rug than the first time we saw it.
Right.
Also, earlier when TR is doing some target practice, he's shooting at targets of the Tsar and the Kaiser. Which I thought was pretty funny.
His eventual ally, the Tsar. Yeah.
Well, actually,
sort of.
Well, the Tsar had been overthrown by the time the U.S. joined in World War I.
Absolutely right. Yeah, and that was a big point of contention because he was not popular in America. The Tsar.
No. We talked about in one of our earlier episodes. He was like the symbol of European autocracy. The Tsar.
Yeah. Of inequality, slavery, murdering minorities like Jews in his country.
Yeah.
Not popular at all. So I guess it makes sense he's shooting at him, and also the Kaiser as well.
Yeah.
Quentin. Is it Quentin or is it Kermit that's in the hole?
I think he says Kermit.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's right. But Quentin shows up later at some point. Alice Roosevelt is in this movie as well.
She is.
Yeah, briefly. She sings for He's a Jolly Good Fellow.
She does. Much of the rest of his family, they don't do much. TR he's the main character.
He's the star of the movie, really. And I think it's a fine performance. I think it's pretty good. Brian Keith, you said?
Yeah, Brian Keith, he did a good job. He looks like Teddy Roosevelt. But again, there's so much pontificating.
It's a little much, I think. But
the American spirit.
You got to think about this, though, because it's 1975. Saigon, I guess,
is basically South Vietnam's falling.
Like while this is happening, and the American people, I think there's an outlet for a little bit of jingoism in a movie, a little bit of American exceptionalism, and to feel good about yourself as an American through harmless cinema. I think that's maybe what this movie's trying to scratch at.
Well, I mean, people did go to storm the Moroccan embassy afterwards. Perdicaris alive or Raizuli dead. Too bad for you all. They've all both been dead for like 50 years.
Oh no.
Well, it's a so the end is Raizuli goes off and he does his thing, and you don't really hear much else, and he seems like an older man, but like he does in real life, he lived on like 20 years after this.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is that the Riffians took a long time, so like the French and the Spanish fought very heavily against the Berbers.
I mean, the
Spanish Foreign Legion.
Franco fought in the Rif War before the Spanish Civil War. That's where he became famous as a commander.
The Viva Muerte, right?
Yeah, the Spanish Foreign Legion, or the Spanish Legion. Yeah.
Spanish Foreign Legion. Long live death.
Long live death.
The French Foreign Legion. There's some of those movies like Legionnaire with Jean-Claude Van Damme, a movie that I'd seen 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Always wondered what happened. I was like, oh, that was interesting. I was much younger when I watched it. And then I found it on Amazon Prime a few months ago, and I watched it. It has, talking about Oz, it has one of the guys who's a bad guy in Oz, Adewale Akinyo Agbaje.
Oh, with the little hat.
Yes, the little hat that never seems to come off. He is in the movie Legionnaire, and he is a Killer Croc in the Suicide Squad movie.
Oh my God. Unlocked memories right there. Yeah.
BET. Thanks. Good job.
A fine film. A fine film.
Because I saw Suicide Squad on an airplane, of course, because why else would I ever
it's the perfect place
waste
to watch
my time watching that film? But then there's The Suicide Squad, which I haven't watched. Is it better? Is it worse?
I think it is better. I want to watch it, to be honest.
It has Idris Elba in it. I know that.
Yeah. Replacing Will Smith. By that time, Will Smith had embarrassed himself.
I don't know if he'd slapped someone yet by that.
I think he might have, but I don't really know, to be honest. Yeah.
It's like The Suicide Squad, The Ohio State University. That's what they always do in the NFL when they're, at the bottom when they're like defense and offense, and they're always like The Ohio State University, not a Ohio State University, The Ohio State University.
The East Carolina.
The University of Wisconsin at Superior. Oh my goodness. It's a good movie. It's a lot of fun, and it actually is a well-made movie compared to a lot of the other ones.
Yeah.
There's no men running out with grenades, though, for no reason, which I got to give it a knock.
It's tragic. It's really tragic. 75, John Wayne... No,
he was still alive.
He was still alive, but was the Green Berets his last movie?
No, I think it was The Shootist.
The Shootist. Oh yeah, and he also had some like cop movie, like what is it, McQuaid or something like that. He's like a modern day police movie.
Oh really? I don't know. Point. I mean, I think he was acting up until he died, and he died in I think 79.
Okay, all right.
We're making the Fighting Seabees 2.
Come on, boys. We got to go to the Dominican Republic. Let's do it for Lyndon Johnson, boys.
That's right. Goodness. No, it's a great film. My dad loved this movie, and I remember watching it when I was a kid.
And I get why. It's a good movie. I like it.
It's well made. Lots of head cutting off. I didn't remember so much all the heads being chopped off. And Sean Connery does a good job, even though he's playing an Arabic guy.
Yeah. I think it's fine, honestly, because I know that in the Islamic world, there's a variety of skin tones all over the place. You go to the Maghreb, there's people who are dark skinned, people who are light skinned. So I don't really have a problem with it, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, I think with Sean Connery as one of those actors, it's just sort of like Arnold Schwarzenegger. Some actors work hard to adopt accents and talk, Daniel Day-Lewis and Gangs of New York. He researched how to do a New York accent of that era and all that. But some people are just like, fuck it.
I'm just going to be myself.
Yeah. And you know what? We just kind of accept it. It's kind of like a refuge in audacity that works.
The death of Stalin is a perfect example. Everyone is just themselves. And also, speaking of Sean Connery, I mean, objectively, he looks exactly like Ayatollah Khomeini. I mean, 100% the same. So,
That's Sikh.
I'm just throwing it out there. That MI6 agent,
yes.
Khomeini. So, I mean, what are you going to do?
It's an enjoyable, but it very much harkens back to probably movies of Milius's childhood. Like it feels like kind of a 40s action serial, you know,
like Gunga Din or something like that.
Yeah, very much of that. Like the adventure in the desert with the tribesmen and fighting and the the heroes and the big cavalry charge, and it's a good film. I mean, the ending is confusing, and there's probably children who saw this who were like, "Yeah, let me talk about my class about the time all the Marines shot all the those damn Germans, you know, and their Pickelhaubs." Dress rehearsal for Bella Wood, I guess. You know, but it was
devil dogs. You.
Yeah, that's right. Teffelhunden. Teufel? Is it
Teufel? I think it's Teufel. Yeah, Manteuffel. That guy.
Manteuffel, yeah. German is such a beautiful language. And all of its
a very handsome language, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. But it's a really enjoyable film. And it's what I like is it's such a different time period than a lot of the other films that we're going to do and have done.
It's a crazy choice of a film to make a big bombastic period piece movie out of. Like who would have expected to make a movie out of this thing, this minor footnote in history?
Yeah. Well, you got to sexy it up a little bit.
Well, sure.
So first of all, you got to get the 60-year-old man's got to become a 30-year-old woman.
Get him out of here now.
Ion, get out.
I think it might be Jon. Like,
is it Jon?
Like John.
How is it Jon?
In Romanian, it's Jon Antonescu. So I think it might be Jon.
Okay.
Yeah. Like Ian. Jon.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Greek is very interesting. Fascinating.
Yeah.
Cool place.
Yeah.
Great food. Cool sights.
Nice canal they got there.
That Corinth Canal is beautiful.
Yeah.
The Acropolis is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's a neat place. Delphi's interesting too.
Downtown Athens, just gorgeous.
Beautiful. Once you get outside the Plaka and the Acropolis, it gets a little rough.
That's where it really starts getting great. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go to the if you're there though, you got to go to the Acropolis Museum is cool, but go to the National Archaeological Museum. It is a little bit outside of like the area right around the Acropolis, but that's where like you walk through and it's like, here's the mask of Agamemnon just there, and like walked into a room and looking around, and my wife is like, there's the Antikythera mechanism, you know, from the Indiana Jones movie. Such a good movie. But there it is, just sitting in it. Yeah, it's a really cool place.
I haven't seen it, but you have.
I have. I saw it in theaters.
Yeah.
It was, I mean, here's the thing. It's actually better than the Shia LaBeouf one.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
But they should have ended. Indiana, it will always chap my ass. It really will. That they, you know, talking about Indiana Jones in The Last Crusade, Sean Connery, the ending of that was perfect. They ended that movie on the perfect note. If they had never made another Indiana Jones film after it, it would have ended perfectly. They ride off into the sunset. There's the hint of future adventure, but they've kind of closed the book. He's mended the relationship with his father, like ended on a perfect note. And then they said, no, we need crystal skulls.
Did the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles happen after the third movie or before the third?
After the third, but before the fourth. They're actually on Disney Plus. They're really interesting.
Yeah.
It basically is called Indiana Jones meets everyone famous who ever lived between 1908 and 1925. He meets the Red Baron in one.
Oh wow, okay.
Interesting. And the airplanes in that episode are actually pretty accurate. He meets all sorts of anyone famous, Ernest Hemingway, all sorts of people. There's one though where he goes to Romania and there's like vampires, like some guy who's supposed to be like Dracula or something.
Is this during the First World War?
Yes. What? The fuck? There's actually some good episodes where he's fighting in the trenches because he lies about his age and he joins the Belgian army.
Yeah.
And
he goes to Africa too.
They do, yeah. Belgians. And he meets what's that name? The guy's name.
The German guy with the hat.
He meets Paul von Lutzow, the one who told Hitler to go fuck himself.
Lutzow?
Yeah, is
Lutzow?
it Lutzow? He's the one who told Hitler to go fuck himself or something like that. And he lived into like the 1960s. And God, I can't. His name is escaping me. Wikipedia, do your thing. Oh, that's it. Paul von Lettow-Vorbeck. Paul von Lettow-Vorbeck. He meets him. He also meets Seeloo, Friedrich Seeloo, the guy the Seeloo Scouts are named after.
Oh, wow.
And he is played by the guy who plays Belloc in the first Indiana Jones
no
movie.
way.
Yeah.
What is going on?
I know, right?
Is he a bad guy?
He's a good guy.
He's a good guy. Okay. Interesting. Interesting.
So yeah,
That's nuts.
But he fights at like Verdun in one episode, and it's like a really pretty good rendition of trench warfare and the horror of fighting in the trenches. And then you have some other ones that are kind of light fluff, like he meets Pancho Villa in one, and he fights with Pancho Villa, and you know
they go to Columbus, New Mexico. Let's teach these
yeah,
Americans.
There's pretty much a there's and the guy who plays young Indiana Jones later is in the Boondock Saints.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Is he one of the two?
He's one of them. Not the Norman Reedus one, the other one.
No. Okay. Gotcha.
Norman Reedus. Well, he had to get something after he got blown up in Blade 2.
Well, exactly. Yes, exactly. He was one of Dame Moschino's familiars.
I've been onto you since they turned you.
Yeah.
In second. It's not a dud.
It's not a dud, buddy. Yeah.
Chris Christopherson. I was kind of liking that. I kind of came to like that guy.
I let them in, asshole. What a great movie. Such a fine film.
I remember we were talking about how like Blade 1 and Blade 2 are both really good movies, but for totally different reasons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just like Alien and Aliens.
Yeah.
Great movies for totally different reasons.
Yeah.
Terminator and Terminator 2. Great movies for totally different reasons. Gettysburg and Gods and Generals. Okay, well, you can only run the string so far, I guess. It's what a great film. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I'm glad we watched it.
A Milius classic right there.
Yes, it would have done better with a little bit more Stalin, but hey, you know.
Yeah, Mao Zedong, he should have showed up, and yeah. Some surfing, put some surfing in the movie too. That would have been good.
That's right.
But a fine film, and I'm glad that I watched it. Thank you for introducing it to me.
Of course, Max, you are more than welcome. Well, this is Matt signing off.
And this is Max signing off.
Have a good day, guys.